Great. Okay. Put the foot down and circle both arms. Bend your knees, lower, lower, lower. Circle the other way, up, up, up. Bend your knees, lower, lower, lower. Circle up, 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 all the way onto the balls of your feet. And then lower the heels, bend the knees, circle the arms, bring the arms forward, pulse, pulse, and open. Pulse, pulse, and open. Pulse, pulse, open, tall, lift the heart. Bend the knees, pulse, pulse, open, tall, lift the heart. Bend the knees, pulse, pulse, open. Pulse, pulse, open. Pulse, pulse, open. Lift the arms skyward and stretch the left arm away from the left foot. Right arm away from the right foot. Stretching side to side. Invite that myofascia to really open. Fluid movement. And then release your arms down and lift up your long TheraBand. Bring the long TheraBand right over your thighs and broaden across your shoulder girdle and collarbones. Draw the head of the arm bones back and pull the TheraBand against your thighs, palms facing back. Feel the head of your arm bones rest back as well. Now root the tailbone like your third leg of a stool. Feel strong across that upper chest. Palate over heart over pelvis. And inhale, look out over your right shoulder. And then exhale through center and inhale over the left. So we're opening the upper spine now. We're strengthening the back body as we exhale to center and inhale to one side. Make sure your knees aren't hyperextending. We're warming up that upper body, strengthening it, and lifting your spine out of that kyphotic curve, which is good, Sharon, before you get on an airplane. Inhale. Exhale, release. Let the TheraBand rise up overhead, stretch it wide, bring it back, and breathe into the front chest. Come to one toe. I'll lift the knee and circle. 2, 3. Step down, bring the TheraBand back over. Inhale up, find your stretch, lift to the other toe. Hug in the banks of your river and circle. 2, 3, and release the TheraBand down. So you can continue coming forward with the TheraBand, or you can exhale, release it down the back, and inhale, lift it up front, and exhale, release it down the front. So we inhale, take it up and over, and we inhale, up and over. Fluid breath, lift. And release and pause. Ground through your heels. Rest the head back. Breathe into the front chest. And exhale. The TheraBand back to the front. Come back in so your hands are close to the thighs. Draw the TheraBand across the thighs. Draw it across your chest. Inhale, look to the right. Exhale across to the left. Now, as you root your tail, lift the base of the skull, lengthening your spine. Inhale and exhale and inhale and exhale. And then bring the TheraBand around your back to the low back ribs. And bring it forward, palms up. And inhale, step to one toe, take your arms forward with the TheraBand. Exhale, elbows into the sides. Inhale, lift to the other toe. Now, as you breathe into that low back rib ring, I want you to think about slightly lifting it away from the pelvis. So it's like you're lifting the TheraBand up a little at the back ribs as you breathe into it. Inhale and exhale and inhale and exhale and inhale, exhale. Now, see if you can continue lengthening the spine and lift the knee and release and inhale. And exhale, arms come open and release back, elbows to sides. Inhale, keep that palate floating over heart, over pelvis, and release. Bring the TheraBand up over the top of the head. Remember, you want it far enough back that you can stretch up into it from behind your ears. Take your hands open long on your TheraBand and grounding into your feet. Release your tailbone, third leg of a stool, and lengthen up the whole column of the spine. Hug in the banks of your river. Check in that your knees aren't hyperextended. And from the pelvis, root down, and then lengthen up the spine. Feel the neck lengthen. The shoulders release. Feel the rib cage spine lengthen. The lowest circle of the ribs releases. Feel for the lumbar lengthening. Release the pelvis into rooting the legs and step one toe back. Float that foot up behind you. Keep lengthening into the spine as you hinge forward. Hinge forward any amount. You can come towards your Vira 3 and then float back up. Lengthen both feet into the floor. Lengthen up into your TheraBand. Hug the banks of your river in. Take your next foot back. Float that foot up behind you and hinge. Lengthen into the TheraBand. Fluid breath. And unhinge. Stay long and tall. Rooting the feet. Lengthen the neck. Lengthen the spine of the rib cage. Lengthen the lumbar. Gently hug in the banks of your river and step your heels together. Keep lengthening the spine as you bend your knees and lengthen the legs. Bend the knees and zip the thighs together. Bend and zip. Some of you may stay with this. Some of you may lift to the balls of your feet and lower and lift. Keep lengthening the spine all the way through the neck. One more. And release. Bring the TheraBand in front and place your right hand on your hip, left palm up, arm long. Now, from your pelvis, root down into your feet. Zip up the midline and then open your left arm out to the left. Broad across your shoulder blades. Broad across your pelvis. Lift to the toe. So you're still in a little turnout with your V. Lift your foot to the flat of your foot to your calf. And then straighten the leg and bend. Straighten and bend. Stay long in that spine. One more time. And step down. Really hold across. Stretch from your grounding hip of your right hand to your left shoulder blade and out the arm. Now feel into the spine and lengthen it up. And release. Bring your right palm forward, left hand to your hip, and rooting into the ground, open your right arm. Not flaring the ribs, strong in your square. Feel the midline of your thighs, lift the pelvic floor, lengthen the spine. Broad across your shoulder girdle, broad across your pelvis, come to your toe. Bring your foot to your calf, and then swing it open, and touch. And open and touch. Long spine. Open and touch. Open and touch and release. So lots going on there. We're strengthening the myofascial slings, but we're still strengthening the central column. Pretty cool, huh? Okay, let's come to the floor, and then we'll come back to standing. So please have your ball blocker oov coming to the floor. Also have your blocks because I want to do, or your oov for your feet. And lay yourself down. Head on a pillow if your gaze isn't perpendicular to the sky. We want that gaze perpendicular and come down into somatic walking. So when we think of a lengthened spine, it's really important that we release the tension in the low back, so we somatically walk and we breathe in to the moving spine. Now, if your lumbar is flattened or you have scoliosis, so one side of the lumbar is flattened, you may want a folded blanket under your pelvis even here. Fluid breath, relax your shoulder girdle broad. Now, pause, lift up your shoulders, take them away from your pelvis. Lift up your head, take it away from your shoulders, and just relax right here, breathing space between your vertebrae. Relax on the exhales. And then imagine you can pump up the discs with your breath between the vertebrae. Relax the spine long on the mat. You may continue to need to lift the shoulders, lift the head as your spine relaxes. Now we have a nice long spine, tailbone towards earth and tailbone towards sky. Feel into releasing tension wherever you might find it as you rock your pelvis. Part of elongating the spine is relaxing. Now step your feet to the outer edges of your mat. Open your arms to a T or take them overhead and take your knees to the left. Reach through the right knee. Stretch from the pelvis down the leg, from the pelvis up the spine. So oftentimes people get crunched in the lumbar spine because of a tight psoas. Really stretch inside the right pelvis. If you feel a stretch at the inner thigh, that's a good sign that you're getting that stretch. Feel from the inner thigh to the spine. Is there any tension through the pelvis and low back? If so, inhale and stretch that line. Exhale, relax into opening the spine, pelvis, inner thigh connection. Take a few pulsations, inhaling the stretch, exhaling the release. Feel for the connection, inner thigh to pelvis to spine. And where the psoas connects is to the transverse processes, which are on the right side of the spine. And then exhale to center. Take your knees to the right and inhale, open the left pelvis. Inner thigh through pelvis to spine. Stretch the line. Relax into opening. And then stretch the line again. Relax into opening. And stretch and inhale. And relax on the exhale. And come back to center. And somatically walk your pelvis. Arms back down to your sides, palms up, shoulder girdle broad. Come to center and float one leg to tabletop. Can you stay broad across the shoulder girdle? Float the other leg to tabletop. Broad across the shoulder girdle, toe dip, and come up. Keep your neutral lumbar curve strong from your front ribs to your front hip pointers. And then hug your right knee in, lengthen your left leg out. Keep your pelvis in a neutral position so you're not hitching the bent leg hip up towards your armpit. Keep hugging in the banks of your river. Hold the pelvis together and switch and switch and switch and switch. If you'd like to, nod your nose towards your mouth, lengthen the spine and lift. This is contraindicated if you have osteoporosis. Now flex the foot and press out with the heel. If we stretch any of the myofascia in the body, we create room for the spine. So we're stretching through the heel, probably stretching the calf, maybe up into the back of the knee. Now floint the feet, spread your toes, press out through both big toe and pinky toe ball mounts. Lengthen through the top of your head. And hug both legs back in. Reach hands and feet for the sky. Find your neutral curve. Bring wrists away from ankles. Stretch. Keep your natural curve. Circle and hug. Inhale. Lengthen out. No rib flaring. Reach the tailbone long. Activate your glutes. Circle and hug. Inhale. Maintain your neutral curve. No rib flaring. Hug in the glutes for support. Circle and hug. One more. Inhale out, stretch it open. And exhale in. Release your arms beside you, palms up. Right foot overhead, left foot long. Pulse, 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 pulse. Again, feel it into your pelvis. Yes, it moves slightly to allow for the differences in the legs, but we want to also keep it stable. Nod your nose slightly towards your mouth. Lengthen through the top of the head. Flex your feet. Pulse, 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 pulse. The front knee can bend, but try to keep that lengthening leg down the mat long. And don't throw the leg around and don't bring it too low. Bring it not quite as low as a few of you are. Yeah. Pulse, pulse. There you go. Straight knee down the mat. Pulse, 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 pulse. Bring the feet together. Bend the knees and toe dip. Broad across your shoulder girdle. Really ground the shoulders we opened earlier. Ground the arm bones. Feel your front ribs reach for your hip pointers. You can stay with single leg toe dips or toe dip both feet. And inhale, those ribs reach for the hip pointers. Keep your neutral lumbar curve. You can use energy through the navel up along the spine. You may want to activate the banks to your river. And one more toe dip. And then as you bring the femur bones parallel, bring your hands to the femurs, press your palms into the femurs, and draw the femurs towards the chest. So even here, I'd like you to be thinking of a long spine. And press the hands in, pull the femurs towards you at a percentage of effort you can sustain. Fluid breath. And then draw the knees into the chest. Circle the legs wide apart and back together again. Fluid breath and fluid movement. Take your circles the other way. Now, bring the knees together and circle the knees together so you feel the perimeter of your sacrum. This is the base of your spine. It's an arrowhead so that it will press down between your ilium bones of your pelvis and seat itself well for support of the spine. Take your circles the other way. Because of how we torque the pelvis in movements, we can throw the SI joints out of alignment a little bit. So we're going to work with that a little today. Reach for your block and bring your block between your knees. So you're bringing it wide this direction, a knee here and a knee here. Press into the block. Let your arms relax, shoulders broad. Now press the knees into the block. Start with 10%, 20, 30, 40. Now make sure you haven't already gotten to 100. Try 100 and back it off. 90, 80, 70. Pause there. Feet can be flexed, toes spread. Hug the knees into the block at 70% of effort. Now can you keep the shoulders broad and toe dip the feet slightly? And draw the knees back up and toe dip slightly. Keep hugging the block. We're resetting the SI joints. We're just moving the feet a little bit. Hug the block. And then take the block into your hands. Release the block and circle your knees again. Ooh, you might feel like, wow, that helped me open up my pelvis a little bit. Circle the other way. Okay, so one more activity to help us realign these SI joints. Rest your left foot on the floor. Wrap your fingers around the right femur. Keep your pelvis in neutral. Now, as you draw the bent leg in towards your chest, you may flatten the lumbar curve. That's okay. Lengthen the other leg out on the mat. Flex the foot and press through the four corners of the long foot. Now, draw the bent knee leg into the chest and then press the femur bone away, but resist the press with the hands. So keep the femur bone close to the chest, pressing the femur bone into your hands. Welcome, George. Fluid breath. Hug your hips towards one another. Press your femur bone into the hands. And now relax and draw the knee into the chest again. Now, lift the leg, the femur, so it's almost perpendicular to the sky. Your arms are long, they're still wrapped around your femur bone, and press the femur bone into your hands. Yeah, press it into your hands. Feel how you're activating that side of your pelvis. You're kind of pushing the ilium around the sacrum slightly. Press the femur bone into your hands. Arms are long, elbows are straight. And then release the knee back towards your chest. Now, take the bent knee even farther away, and you may lift your head up, look towards the knee, and press again into your arms. Press the femur bone away from your head. Lengthen the leg on the mat, and then release back down, and release the bent leg. Step the other foot in and come into somatic walking. And then rest the pelvis in neutral and draw in the next leg. Draw it right in close to your chest. Lengthen the other leg out on the mat. And press the femur bone into your hands. Flex the bent-legged foot. Press the foot. Press the femur bone. Resist with the arms. Shoulder girdle broad. And release and hug the knee in towards the chest. Now take the femur bone straight up towards the ceiling, elbows straight, head resting back. And press the femur bone into the hands. Broad across the shoulder and neck, press. Keep the long leg long. Integrate the pelvis so you're not causing it to go askew. And release, knee back towards chest. So you can stay with that one, or come to one where you take the femur bone even further, lift the head, look towards the knee, and press femur into hands. Press. This may cat curl your lumbar spine a little bit. And then release, knee back into chest. And relax that foot to the floor. Step the other foot in, somatic walking. You may feel more open in your pelvis now. Since we just did asymmetrical work with the SI joints, we'll come back to the block one more time. Step one foot into tabletop, one shin, and the other shin. Bring the block between your knees. It's long way between your knees. Yep, that's right, George. And press your knees into the block. Shoulder girdle broad. Begin at 100% of effort. Press into the block. Notice how you press your knees into the block. Your femur bones will splay wider. Now try 90%, 80%, 70% of effort. Flex your feet, spread your toes. Keep hugging the block at 70% of effort. Broad shoulder girdle, long spine. Feel your sacrum on the floor, long up to the grounded shoulders and head. And toe dip the toes a little bit. Keep hugging the block. And lift the knees. And toe dip. And lift the knees. This abdominal core strengthening work we're doing will help us maintain a long spine. Come back up. Hug the block. And release. And step one foot to the floor and the other. And come into your somatic walking. Okay, reach for your ball blocker. Ooh, I'll blow my ball up. Place it underneath your sacrum. So too bad Nadine didn't come back. We just did her SI joint openers, but I'll send her the video link. Rest your sacrum on the ball and add or blocker, ooh, and float one leg to tabletop and the other up to join and hug the knees together. Long spine. Really press down into the arm bones, into the floor, broad across your shoulder girdle, and open the left leg out to the left. Stay long and strong. Feel how the left shoulder activates. Create awareness from left shoulder to right pelvis and hug back in. Take the right leg out. Be strong from right shoulder to left pelvis and hug back in. Now think of this X as long. From left shoulder, as you take the left leg out, stretch across to the right pelvis. Those of us with scoliosis, that may help us unwind the curves a little bit. Come back in. Take the right leg out. Feel the right shoulder. Lengthen across to the left buttock. And hug back in. Keep thinking of this long spine. As you open one leg and draw it in, inhale the other leg out and exhale it in. We inhale and exhale. Broad across the shoulder girdle. Long all the way through the neck. stabilizing the pelvis with the help of the shoulder girdle as we move the legs. So we're getting our myofascial slings to work here, but they're working around this long, spacious spine. And one more. And draw back in and float one foot to the floor and then the other. And lift yourself up off your prop. And lower yourself back onto your prop. And lengthen one leg over the prop. Take your arms up overhead and stretch from hand to foot. Fluid breath, really stretch. Think of that whole line of the spine stretching. The connections from the spine through the pelvis to the inner thigh, stretching. The line from the inner thigh to the inside arch of the foot, stretching. And then step that side in and stretch the other side. Feel into the outside of the spine, side of the spine stretching. The front of the spine stretching. The back of the spine lengthening. Fluid breath into the stretch, really actively stretch. And then release back. Bring your arms to your sides and bend one knee, lift one foot towards the sky. You can lift the knee instead of the foot if that's better for your hamstrings. Broad across your shoulder girdle, strong into the arms. Lift the pelvis almost off your prop and lower it back down. And lift and lower and lift and lower. Great, Evan. Great work with the oof. Lift and lower and lift. Pause in the lift, flex your foot and lower the heel. Now really hug that pelvis in. Keep it aligned. Lift the foot. Flex the foot, lower the heel, point the toe and lift the foot. Keep hugging in at the banks of your river. One more. And then lower the pelvis heavily onto your prop and float the foot down. Broad across your shoulder girdle, take a few three-dimensional breaths. Breathe into the back kidneys. Relax the neck into its neutral curve. Breathe space between the vertebrae, lift the shoulders, stretch them away from the pelvis, lift the head away from the shoulders. Draw the next leg in, point the toe towards the sky if you like, and lift. Now you want to stay strong across that pelvic girdle. Strong across the shoulder girdle and down into the humerus bones. Lift and lower and lift and lower. And then lift. Flex the foot and lower the heel. Point the toe and lift. Remember, you can stop with any of the movements along the way. You can stay in two-legged bridge and pulse the pubic bone. You can lift the foot and just poke the toe towards the air, or you can lower and lift. Stay strong across the pelvic girdle and release the pelvis onto your prop. Release the legs, relax the arms. Lengthen one leg out again over your prop. If it's comfortable to you, you can lengthen both legs over the prop. If not, just stay with the one for a few breaths and then switch. Bring your hands to the inside of your ilium bones, your pelvis bones, and just massage up the outer edge of that pelvis, down to the groins, and come to the inside of the pelvis, massaging up. Bring your thumbs around the back of the pelvis, massage into the top of the pelvis. Let your fingers come under the top layer of muscles in towards your spine, massaging. Invite the psoas to relax. And then just rest for a moment. You can rest in bridge or with your legs long. Breathe deep into the belly. Relax the pelvis heavy onto your prop. Don't underestimate the importance of the relaxation in this practice to open the body. exhale. Walk the legs back in, lift up off your prop, lower down, and roll yourself over onto hands and knees. Find your long neutral spine and inhale your cow and exhale your cat. And inhale cow and exhale cat, and pause in your cat, pressing hands away from knees. Take your sit bones towards your heels. Breathe spaciousness into the low back, and maybe sway your pelvis a little side to side to get more stretch in any side that's tight. Fluid breath. If you'd like to, you can lift your palms and come onto your fingertips. Hollow your armpits skyward. And then lower your sit bones towards your heels. Stretch out in your child's pose. Breathe deep into the back body. And walk your hands around to the right, breathing deep into the left side body. So we're all somewhat asymmetrical. So we come into these side bending postures and we play a little bit with lifting the left side body skyward and then lowering the left sky body earthward. And we find in our unique form where the stretch is best for us. I come all the way up onto my fingertips as I lift the left side body skyward. I lean a little bit back into my right arm. And then exhale, release towards the floor and walk our hands back around. But you may find different play in your body helps you open that side body more. It's going to depend on your unique spine. So be willing to move the hips a little, move the shoulders a little. Invite your own gentle exploration into stretching the fascia around the spine, into the shoulder girdle and pelvis, because it's all interconnected. Come back to center, child's pose. Look at your hands and ground each finger pad, fingers evenly spread, and float up, lifting your pelvis skyward, knees bending in towards your armpits. Press into each finger pad, lengthen back into your sit bones, and take your femur bones back. Stretch your heels back towards the floor and then lift them up. Look at your ankle creases. You don't want them falling one direction or the other as you lower your heel towards the floor. You may float your heels up to have those ankle creases parallel to the floor and float one foot up behind you. Long spine from hands through to the shoulder girdle, through the spine to the heel. Release the neck and lower the foot. And inhale, float the next leg up. Stretch from hands to heel. Use your front abdominal core to help you lengthen the low back from the front of the body. And lower the foot and walk your dog. And float forward into your plank. Now, some of you may want to come to knee plank. Some of you will stay lifted. Fluid breath. Hug in the banks of your river. Lift from beneath the spine all the way through the neck. This is really important to stretch the front neck up into the spine. This will help you release those stiff, deep occipital muscles that connect the skull to the spine. Maybe you rock a little forward and back on your heels. We're strengthening the front line. And roll back, downward dog. And walk your dog. Press in to the whole metacarpal arch from index finger to pinky finger. Press into the finger pads. Try to lift the center of the palm, the center of the wrist. Come to stillness with the legs and float one leg back up behind you. Some of you will stay here in this long pose. Some will bend the knee. Lift one hip over the other and press the foot back behind you. Stay broad in the shoulder girdle. Yes, we're twisting the spine, but we're still lengthening through the arms, through the shoulders, all the way to the bent knee. And then bring the pelvis back to neutral, step down, lift the other foot, bend the knee, lift the hip, press, stay long in the spine, stretch it out, broaden the shoulder girdle, release the neck. Pelvis comes to level, step down and walk your feet toward your hands. Release your torso onto your femurs. Look down, second metatarsals parallel, and float up into your Utkatasana, hands at your heart. Release the tailbone earthward and lengthen your spine all the way through the natural curve of the neck. Fluid breath. Can you lengthen the sides of the spine? Breathe three-dimensionally. Release your arms and let them swing, still long spine, all the way through the neck. And lift yourself up. Root the tailbone, lift the low back rib ring, interlace your fingers the funny way. Thumbs to the base of the skull, lift. Root the tailbone, lift the low back rib ring. Keep your pubic bone and tailbone in line with each other. And rest the head into the hands, opening the heart. Fluid breath. Too much tightness in the shoulders can compress the spine. Maybe you release the arms and lengthen them too. Root the outer edges of the feet. Reach the fingernails skyward. Exhale, hands to the heart. Relax the arms. Pause in your mountain pose. Hot air balloon lifting you from the center palate. Relax your shoulder girdle, but lengthen that center channel. Breathe into the discs between the vertebrae. Now come to your wall and reach your fingertips up the wall wide. Lift up onto the metatarsal arch of your feet and lower your heels. Expand the spine. Lengthen the spine. Expand the spine. One more time. Lift up onto the metatarsal arch, the transverse arch, and lower the heels. Keep your armpits hollow. Don't flare the ribs towards the wall. Tailbone reaches earthward. And release your hands down. Feel the length of your spine, palate over heart over pelvis. And turn your back to the wall. Bring the whole length of your humerus bone into the wall. But don't compress the spine as you draw the arm bones back. First, root the feet. Lengthen that center channel. Draw in the banks of your river. And then rest the arm bones back, press. Keep strong in the front square, ribs to hip pointers. Neutral curves to the spine as you press the arms back. Opening the pectoralis minor and these front chest muscles will help us lengthen the spine because we won't be drawn forward to compress the front of the spine of the rib cage. Now, come to weight on one foot. Evan, you could do this with your oov behind your back like we used to if you want to. The oov behind your sacrum and the head of the oov between your shoulder blades. Now, float one foot off the floor, lift the knee. Fluid breath, straightening the lifted leg. Long spine, release. Float to the other leg. Ground the four corners, lift the three arches. Lengthen the spine, broad across the back body, lift the knee. Fluid breath. Find your pelvis and make it neutral. And before you try to lengthen the leg, can you keep the heart lifted, the spine decompressed? And release. Come on to both feet on the floor. Breathe three-dimensionally into your torso. Now, pranavayu in yoga draws energy up the spine and fills the heart. Feel for it. Let that energy now move up the spine to the third eye. Lengthen the spine. Bring your weight onto the first foot again and lift to the toe. And keeping the length in the spine, lift the knee. Keeping the banks of your river firm, lengthen the leg. Long spine, don't collapse the spine forward to lift the leg. Exhale, release, back to center. Ground into both feet. Lengthen the spine, lengthen the sides of the spine, the front, the back of the spine. Feel how you can work those muscles right in next to the vertebrae. We don't always tune into those muscles. Hug in the banks of your river and switch sides, coming to your toe. Floating up the knee. Broad across the shoulder girdle. Lengthen the leg. Long in the spine. Release the foot. And step away from the wall, pausing in your mountain pose. Fluid breath. Okay, now we've found that length. Let's lift up our hand weights. Okay, we're going to try something different. Evan, you could be on your oov. The rest of us, we could, if you don't have an oov, you can step up onto the block. Jory, I should probably show you how to do these things. I think you have an oov at your house, but step up onto the block so that your toe is touching the floor of the floating foot. Your pelvis is level. Yeah, you can step onto your oov. Now inhale, bicep curl your arms and release. So your tailbone's releasing, your spine is long, palate over heart over pelvis. Bicep curl your arms. Keep that heart lifting, your gaze towards the mountaintop, and see, can you lift the knee and lower? And we inhale and exhale. Stay long and strong in the spine. Feel into your back body. Rely on it. Lean back into it. And one more here. And then lower the toe. Bring your arms into your goalpost position and press up. Hug the hips in and lower the arms and press and lower. Now lengthen the lumbar spine as you press and lower. And see, can you lift the knee and lower and stretch and release and stretch and release. Stay long in the spine, like you're a little marionette puppet and someone's pulling up your hands in your knee. One more time, lift and pause. Can you straighten the leg? And release. Roll your shoulders and we'll step up on the other side. So this is great glute med work for the standing leg. And you can pause with any of the exercises as we go along. And so bend your arms and release and inhale and exhale and draw the knee up and release and inhale and exhale. Lift the leg, lift the hands. Lift from the center palate. Stay long in your spine, level across your pelvis. And one more. And release, toe to the floor. Lift your arms into your goalposts. And press. Really lengthen the spine. And release. Relax the shoulders, lengthen the neck. Keep the neck long and reach. And release. Each time you stretch upward, can you keep the spine a little longer? Inhaling and exhaling. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, ground. Now see, can you lift the knee? Inhale and exhale and inhale. Exhale. It's a stretch. Use the banks of the river to help you. And one more time, stretch it up and pause. And relax the shoulders and lengthen the spine and lengthen the leg. Bye, Evan. And release. Stepping down, roll your shoulders. Feel your feet solid on the ground and inhale, lift your arms into a T. Pause here, feel the strength of your outer shoulder blade, the strength inside your armpit, and relax across the neck and upper shoulders. Fluid breath. From your outer hips, ground into your outer heels. Lift the heart, lengthen the curves of the spine. Lift to one toe, lift the knee. And there are dogs out in my yard. Straighten the leg and lower the leg. Lift to the other toe. Hug in the banks of your river. Lift the knee. Straighten the leg, long spine. And release. And roll your shoulders. Okay, let's end with our float exercise. So step to one side of your mat. Step to the right side of your mat. Heels together in your Pilates V. Bring your hand weights if you want them. You don't have to use hand weights. You can bring just your thumbs to your shoulders. And step across to the left. And float your heels together. And step. And float. So now we keep that long spine. We don't hinge at the pelvis. We keep our neutral curves even as the spine lengthens. And if we want to, we reach the arms. And come back. And reach. And back. And inhale. And exhale, and reach, and float, and inhale, and exhale, inhale, and exhale. One more, reach, pause, ground the heel, lengthen through the top of the head, and draw back, and release, and roll your shoulders. It's enough hand weight for me today with my shoulder. Feels good though, it's coming back. Bring your hand weights or thumbs to your shoulders. Lengthen the whole spine. Lengthen the legs and float across to the right and hinge back and float and hinge. Can you keep really thinking of the length of the spine as you lean? Space between the vertebrae. And as you're ready, reach the arms and draw back and reach and draw. Keep the length and draw. And reach and draw and inhale and exhale. One more, inhale and exhale and release your arms. And pause in this Pilates stance, zipping the inner thighs gently together, hugging in the banks of your river. Create a mer tail. You're a mermaid or a merman. Find your shoulder blades on the back and your lifted heart. And then relax into your Pilates stance, palate over heart over pelvis. Come into a fluid, three-dimensional breath. Feel into your back body. Feel into your side bodies. Feel into the length of the front body. Feel into the soles of your feet on the floor. And bend your knees. And lift your heels. And zip it up. And lower back down. And we bend. Lift. Zip. And lower. And we bend. Lift. Zip. And lower. Now lift. And bend. Lower. And zip. Lift. Bend. Lower. And zip. And lift. Bend. Lower. And zip. Relax again into your Pilates stance. Feel for space between each vertebrae. Open from the center heart out the wings of your collarbones. Fluid breath. And with your left hand, lift the knee out, come to the toe. And tap. 2, 3, 4, and 5. Lift and circle. 2, 3, 4 and 5, and step down. Lift the right knee out and tap. 2, 3, 4, and 5, and lift and circle. 2, 3, 4, and 5, other way. 2, 3, 4, and 5, and hold. This marionette dancer's having fun. Tap and hold, and close, and step down, and pause in your mountain pose. And inhale. Let's draw in to the fun we can have in our Pilates practice. Let's inhale in gratitude for people's questions and requests. Let's inhale into a wonderful Wednesday and week for all of you. Thank you for coming to class. Sorry about the technical difficulties to begin the morning off. I think the internet guy called me back, and we'll see what he has to say.